And we are now live. Brooke Ence, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for helping work around my crazy schedule to find time.
There's nothing wrong with being busy. Unlike me, I just work, come home, and I've got free time, which is always nice. So this is kind of what I do, and that's great fun. But yeah, tell me about your background and what you do for the listeners that might not have heard of you. Obviously, it's just an insight into sort of your story, really.
Yeah, I guess just a quick answer would be I am from Southern Utah. I went to the CrossFit Games in 2015. I kind of got my start, I guess, with health and fitness. I grew up dancing, playing sports, all that good stuff. And that just kind of rolled into, I guess, a desire I had to go to the CrossFit Games. I was doing CrossFit well before I went, but I did team, and I was also a full-time dance major at the University of Utah. So I was not into training full-time, nor was I really interested at the time in the amount of pain or discomfort that I would need to be able to handle if I wanted to attempt to be a games athlete. When I started training for CrossFit Games, I was not a games athlete. I was just training and was giving it my best shot, and turned out I was pretty good at it. So went to the CrossFit Games. I was at Amazon in the movie Wonder Woman, the first one. No, I'm not in the upcoming ones. That was a choice of my own to not be a part of it. And then I was in Amazon in the movie The Justice League. I'm an entrepreneur. You know, many are a lot better at it than me. I kind of just had a business mindset. My parents are both business owners, and I love new opportunities. I have so many ideas, and I just kind of run with them and see what happens. So I own a few businesses. I have partnered with, had sponsors, partnered with companies. And now I am doing that. I'm still training. I'm not competing anymore. I had a cervical fusion and pretty much ended my CrossFit career in 2017. Right, Gina? I have to ask my friend. 2017. Yep. Yes. So did that. And now I am, dabbling in the entertainment industry. Hopefully more TV shows, movies are on the horizon. I filmed a couple things and just doing business. And yeah,
What's
health
the?
and fitness.
Do you want to
Yeah.
give me the scoop on the what you've been recording? You can say no, obviously.
Oh, I filmed, I did what's it called? Motion capture.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for a project that is right now, like through COVID and everything, it's been really difficult for a lot of, I guess, new shows and movies and things to even get filmed, or just, lots of hoops and a lot more issues trying to get all that stuff going. So I did the motion capture for the sort of like trailer type thing that they use to pitch it. And they are now in the process of getting that pitched and hopefully getting it ready to go. So I'm just waiting, I guess, to find out when we would actually have to do more motion capture to actually film the show.
Mm.
That was the first time I'd ever done that, motion capture, where you like wear the suit and have all the lights on you. And it was really exciting. It's crazy how much you have to film. You have to think about every little thing: stepping, using your hands, moving, turning, jumping. But that's the most recent. There are some other things that I've been in conversation with some, producers or show like script writers and things like that. But it's just a huge waiting game. So if something lands, though, I will definitely be excited to share that information.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That's what I say. No, it's good. I mean, going back to sort of your CrossFit stuff as well. What was your main reason for like sticking with CrossFit training compared to other styles of training? So, like when you started that journey, why did you think this is
Yeah.
kind of what I want to do?
I hadn't lifted weights or anything. I found CrossFit when I was in college, but I grew up playing sports, and I was an avid dancer and performer. I was really the most into my dance, musical theater, singing, things like that. But I always played sports. I was always an athlete, my whole family. And I had got into like conventional training, some more like bodybuilding style training. And I had found CrossFit because I was asked to come and audition for a show called Le Rev. It's in Las Vegas. It's like a Cirque du Soleil type show. And I needed some help preparing for it because it's not just one style of dance. It's jumping, diving, it's gymnastics, it's everything. So I was recommended a CrossFit gym. I went to it. And what I loved about it was that it was creating, like, it was functional fitness. It was like sport. It was muscle. I always say like muscle for go and not just muscle for show. And I loved that about it. And then when it came to competing, I loved that version of competition had everything to do with your performance, how well where you were, how hard you've trained, your numbers, your time, your score. These are things that no objective judge could decide, if you looked good enough, basically. So in comparison to other types of fitness competitions, now it had to do with your work and had nothing to do with how you looked. And then on top of that, I grew up, my physique is very athletic. I got teased a lot most of my upbringing because I had really big arms and I was really muscular. Even in dance, I knew exactly which dance companies I could dance for. And I knew all the dance companies I probably could never dance for purely because of my physique. And I finally found a community where everyone was strong. Everyone looked different. It looked different on different people, but everyone focused on your performance and not on how you looked or how fitness ended up looking on you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I mean, from sort of my understanding, what I'm gathering there is obviously if you go and stand on stage and compete with other fitness fanatics, they're judging you on appearance and maybe your glutes aren't big enough and this and or maybe you haven't done this for the judges, whatever, like, a couple of handshakes here and there, and it is purely like merit based, like you need to achieve this time better than everyone else and you'll get the reward for it. And it doesn't necessarily mean like it doesn't necessarily matter how you look, like if your arms are a little bit slimmer or your legs are a little bit thinner or your bum's too big or your bum's too small, it doesn't matter. You're achieving those times and those reps, and that's what matters. So I can see why that's a motivator to stick with that. I kind of like that as well, that you're judged on merit rather than appearance. And I think most sports and styles of training should be judged like that. The same as football here, or I think you guys call it soccer. It's like the teams who score the goals and perform the best win the games. It's not, it's a fashion contest. The best looking players win the game no matter the score. It's never fair, Yeah,
it's definitely more of a put up or shut up kind of a situation, and the work that you put in. It's like you show up to a competition and you're as fit as you're going to be. You can't, depending on what you look like or whatever, is not going to, all of a sudden make you win a workout. It's the work you've put in leading up to that point, and then you do the best you can. So
yeah, I mean, to an extent, obviously, especially within the CrossFit world, you have got to be a certain shape. I mean, if I was like 500 pounds and I wanted to come and compete, I'm probably not going to do too great, like going on that rowing machine for a ridiculous amount of time. I'm probably not going to be as good as some of the leaner, fitter people, but it's not to say it's not possible, but highly unlikely.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But what's great too, though, is if people are interested in competing, but maybe they're not in a place, or maybe it's just not in the cards for them to be a games athlete. There's so many competitions available now, local competitions. It's not just all about the CrossFit Games. And so it really opens up opportunity for everybody. And then if you if you're, really like the strong will survive in terms of trying to go to the CrossFit Games. But I think what's really cool to remember is if someone is training for that and that's in your line of sight and that's what you're working for, then you're going to be eating for that. You're going to be training for that. You're going to be lifting for that. And it could take a really long time, but all of those things, controlling all of those things, it will change your physique. It's
no, that makes sense as well. Like if you're going to go into boxing, you're more than likely going to have a boxer's physique to an extent. I know there's a few exceptions with Tyson Fury, for example, but most people are going to have that sort of lean, ripped physique. So depending on what your training is, on what you're training for, is usually the way you're going to grow and look.
Yeah, and then it just comes down to genetics as well. You have CrossFit athletes that they put in hours and hours of training and lifting, and their body might be super, super lean and really muscular. And you'll have other athletes that they're putting up the same numbers, they're putting up the same times, they're training just as hard, and they might just never have, their muscle may never look the way it does on someone else. They may never be super, super lean. And it's just, but their still performance is like through the roof. Right. It's just, it manifests different on different people. Yeah. You'll see similarities between some people. But not everybody.
I'll keep that as my excuse. I think that it's just manifesting differently on me. That's what I'm blaming it on. Am I right in thinking Matt Fraser's retired now? I think he's gone in to join Steffi at Hybrid. I think.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure.
I've seen. Yeah, they announced that.
Okay, cool. Right, good. I'm glad I'm not talking absolute shit, basically.
Oh, yeah, no. Steffi announced it. They had a bunch of different social media that went out about it.
Okay. How long was you training in CrossFit before you felt you was ready to compete? Like you was at that level to push for even local competitions?
I started doing CrossFit in 2009. I competed at like a local comp and that's back when they had sanctionals. It was like, you didn't do the open, it was sanctionals and then regionals. And I did it then, but I wasn't at a level. I mean, I was the strongest female at the gym. I went to Ute CrossFit in Salt Lake City, Utah. But I also was a full-time student and that took precedent. But I did that and then I competed again with a team in I can't remember if it was 2011 or 2012. Went to regionals and with the team, but it was kind of off and on through those years. Like I did CrossFit. I never did it with the idea in mind, like that I wanted to compete and I wanted to go to the games. Some of the competitions that I did, it was a local competition and like Tommy Hackenbrook was putting it on, or they were, I did the team for regionals because I was a big key factor in getting the team qualified to the games. And then I moved to California and I was doing CrossFit out here, but I didn't really decide that I wanted to train with the idea in mind of like, that's where I'm working towards, because there's no guarantee. And I'd never been to the CrossFit Games and I did CrossFit and I was really strong and really athletic and fit. But I didn't know how fit I could be. So I was at the CrossFit Games watching in 2013. And I remember watching in my old team that I trained with before I moved to California, they won the affiliate cup that year. And I just was like, you know what? I really want to do that. Like, I really want to be out there. And I talked to my old coach after the games were over, and I was like, Tommy, I think I want to do it. And he looked at me and he was like, you're not going to like it. And I was like, I know. He's like, okay. And so I trained by myself every day in preparation for 2014. I went to regionals, and that was 2014 was the last year that California was actually 2 regions. They had Northern California and Southern California. And that was my first time competing in California. So I don't know any of the girls. I don't know. I mean, it's a huge state. The community is massive. I won the first event. That totally surprised me, because up until that point too, I wasn't sure how good I was, because I trained by myself every day. So until I was able to, you get so used to like what your efforts feel like, even though like numbers are going up and times are getting faster, I hadn't yet realized how much better I had gotten in less than a year, just committing my time to training. Won the first event. It was a max hang squat snatch, I think. I did 185. And I went on to have a really great weekend. I was really cool. I took 6th. I did not qualify for the CrossFit Games. There were so many women in my region that had all been to the CrossFit Games. Like, I was competing against lots of games athletes. And so what I did realize is I've gotten so much better. This is definitely something I should keep doing, because I'd originally said, I was like, all right, I'm going to commit for a year. I'm going to train like this. I'm going to do every single thing you tell me to do, Tommy, for 1 year. At the end of it, if I'm like, this sucks, it's not for me, then I won't do it. But what happened is I loved it. I mean, growing up being an athlete, my whole life really, was consumed by dance and fitness. And I just kept training. The next day after regionals, I got my training from my coach, and I went to the gym and I did it. And at the time I was working 2014. I was a barista at a coffee shop in Santa Cruz. And then I was just training. And then from there, I started coaching CrossFit, and I was a full-time CrossFit coach, and then just training full-time by myself. And fast forward 2014, I went to regionals in 2015. This time it was even more terrifying because it was all of California. So it's harder to qualify for regionals. I did really well in the open that year, went to regionals. I did not, and this is really cool for me. And I feel like the way they score now, doesn't necessarily work anymore, but it was always about being really good at everything, but not necessarily like the best at anything. Like you could be the best at something. It's like Matt Fraser was any Olympic weightlifter, like he's going to crush that. You're the best at it. But I went to regionals in 2015. I stuck to the plan with my coaches. I did not win one event, but I won the region. And it was like I had just been working so hard on getting better at everything, just well-rounded athlete. And yeah, won the region, went to the CrossFit Games. That was the year that I also was asked to come in and read for a movie, which ended up being Wonder Woman and the Justice League. I went to the CrossFit Games. I took 2 rookie first place finishes on the snatch ladder and the max clean and jerk. And that I just kept going. And then I filmed the movies. I competed in 2016. When I competed in 2016, I had just, without really getting into it, I had to move to the UK to film the end of January in 2016. And then I was over there working and filming. And then in Italy, I came back to the States. I think it was about 2 weeks before regionals. This was like a discussion that I had with my coaches to decide, because I almost didn't accept the offer. I almost didn't do it because I was worried that it just was disrupting like what I did so much. And then I kind of decided that it would have been really stupid of me to not take the opportunity. So I did that, but I was injured over there. I had really bad tendonitis in my knee. So 6 weeks before regionals, I was doing nothing below parallel. It was kind of a scary situation, but went to regionals. I had E. coli. I got sick right before regionals in 2016. I woke up before I had my flight home from London, extremely sick. So there were a lot of cards stacked against me,
Yeah.
but ended up finishing sixth. Gina ended up finishing sixth. Going into the final event in 2016, there were like 4 of us girls that were all like in fighting contention to go to the games. I did not go. I trained hard for 2017. I mean, right before the Open in 2017, I was a badass athlete. I mean, I was the strongest I'd ever been. I was the fittest I'd ever been. I snatched 210. I was power cleaning 235. I was squat cleaning 260, clean and jerking 260. I mean, I wanted to go back so bad. And you deal with a lot of like trolls, and there was a lot of stuff that was said and things that were super negative and hard for me to read and deal with after 2016. And so I wanted to prove it to myself that, I was a games athlete, and I wanted to prove it to them. And then the day that the Open started, I had an MRI and found out that I had a severely herniated disc in my neck and my cervical spine. And I had some stuff happening physically leading up to the point of me getting an MRI, but I hadn't done anything, fallen, dropped anything on me, nothing to tell me that I was injured. So I was just constantly trying to figure out what was going on, my chiropractor, my physical therapist. And I had so much spinal cord damage that I lost strength, like a lot down my right arm. I couldn't use my hand at all. I couldn't hold a weight. I couldn't hold myself on a pull-up bar. I couldn't spray a hairspray bottle. Like I literally couldn't do this. I couldn't text with my thumbs. So I ended up with a lot of damage that happened down both my arms, my right hand being the worst. And had surgery, couldn't compete, didn't do the Open. I did a couple of the workouts in the Open, even though I wasn't supposed to. Went in for a cervical fusion. So I have a plate and 4 screws in my C6, C7 with a bone graft. Incredible surgeon. Dr. Ivan Chang, if anyone is listening to this and they are needing, having any issues with your spine, he's incredible. And then very long recovery, got back to training, and that was in March. I got back to training in September. Decided to do the Open, going for 2018, and terrified, did the Open, qualified, went to regionals. And it was a very hard but good experience. It was hard because, when you've been, I guess, just accepting that it's like you have to learn and accept and be okay with the fact that I had to forget that, like, the athlete that I was, because I was never going to be that. Like, that's not who I was at this time. I had to relearn so much stuff. I had started from scratch, like a handstand. So I literally was starting over with so many things, and starting over with like gaining strength to do things. And then out of so many problems, and then out of regionals 2018, because I had so much atrophy in my shoulders, the handstand walk event really, really, really messed me up. I ended up doing stem cell injections in both my shoulders after regionals because I didn't want to do surgery, and took time to recover from that. And then I was going to start training to try again. But at that point, like, everything was falling apart with CrossFit. And I kind of decided that I didn't want to, like, the age that I am, what I'd already been through, all the things I still want to do, different sports I want to try, different experiences that I want to have. It wasn't worth me potentially making things worse for myself just because I was on the wheel of CrossFit, as a games athlete or someone who's just training all the time. For me, the years are just going by so fast. And I recognized that. I recognized it early on, and I was okay with it. Because when you want to be the best at something, or this is your sport, this is your career, this is what you're focused on, like, you have to be willing to sacrifice stuff. You sacrifice time, you sacrifice experiences, you sacrifice, it's a constant sacrifices. But what started to happen is, like, I didn't want to be done, but what I wanted more than another year of doing the same thing every day, blinders on, focused, sacrificing so many things, is I wanted to know that I was going to be physically healthy enough to do all the other things that I really wanted to try and do. And, I decided that I was done. And I had a hard time telling people I wasn't going to compete anymore, because I'm like, that's kind of hard to say. I might want to, like, I might get to a point where I'm really healthy, maybe do team. So there is an opportunity that potentially maybe I will compete again, but for now I'm just not, because life. Really. Yeah.
It's I think that's one of the key things you said there that kind of stuck out to me, is that the fact that kind of your body was giving up and you're still in like prime years to develop and be at that elite level. Whereas obviously we all know with time, as we get older, it will naturally sort of deteriorate and you may not be at the peak anymore. And there's like an acceptance that way of like, well, I am 45, so I shouldn't be competing with these people or whatever, like whatever the age is. And I guess for yourself, that must have been quite a hard thing to overcome, where you're mentally still thinking, I'm fit as a fiddle, I'm fine, I should be able to do all of these things, but your body's going, like, you're breaking me, basically, like, what are you doing? And you're kind of having that inner battle as well. And I think that's a tough thing to overcome.
Yeah. And there's also like the thought or conversation of what am I going to do when I'm not a professional CrossFit athlete anymore?
Mm.
And with a lot of things that I had going on and opportunities that were available or things that were coming my way, those are all things that had.
Sorry. What are you cooking? Is she making
I just
something?
love it because she has no idea that we could see her. But all of these things in these years that I'm living right now, like, this is when I have to plan according for the future. I have to be working and putting time into business and putting time into all these things, because the truth is, like, CrossFit's a really big sport and it's incredible and it's going to live for so long. But it's, even guys that are in the NFL that are getting paid so much money, even there's like a crazy percentage of them end up with like no money,
Yeah.
somehow, like, more money, more problems. But I just know that as much as I loved doing it, I had this opportunity that all came from the hard work that I put in, but was there because of who I was, and and experiences that I've had. It all just has come together, and a lot of amazing things can happen from that. But I have to have time for it, and I have to be willing to see it, accept it, and try. And a lot of them might fail. Like, but if I don't try, then no good, no positive stuff could happen in terms of creating, a career that can outlive my years as a professional CrossFit athlete. I want to matter I want to matter to people far beyond just this, like, years of in my prime competing. And the way to do that is not, I believe at a certain point, is not through being on the competition floor. If for me, if you want it to be something that's long term, because at the end of the CrossFit Games, obviously this is not the people that we've seen at the CrossFit Games in the top, like winning the past, so many years, same people. They are savages. Okay. They're not human. They're incredible. But I remember what Katrin actually told me this when I didn't qualify for the games in 2016, because she went through a year where she didn't qualify for the games. Right. And it like really, really broke her down. And she just said to me, and it was just perspective. And I've thought about it so many times, is at the end, and this is something that someone had told her too, at the end of the CrossFit Games, she's like, what do we do? Like, it's over, right? They crown the fittest. What do we do? All of us. We literally all go back to the gym, because now it doesn't matter who won. You immediately start training for who's going to win the next year.
Yeah.
And so that's like, it's this cycle, and that's what you get into. You get into it, and that's like, it takes over your life. And it's not a bad thing to take over your life, but if you want to do other things too, when you're in that, it's very hard to not want to be in it. For me, I was forced out of it. Well, not out of it, but I was forced to sit on the bench for a while, because I was, dealing with injuries that were very hard to accept, completely out of my control, and there was nothing I could do about it. So when I was, after my neck surgery, it's like, well, if I can't do that, like, this is a great time to try and focus on some other avenues of, business or things I can do that are going to continue to help my, my brand or whatever keep growing, even when I'm not competing, and learning that I had so much more value than just who like if I qualify for the games or where I placed in the competition. Like, I have so much more value that is to a broader group of people. And it has nothing to do with if I won the CrossFit Games or not. It has to do with my mind, what I've been through, life experiences, who I am as a person, ideas I have, and it has nothing, and none of that has to do with if you win the CrossFit Games or you don't.
Yeah. You are like,
because of CrossFit, that has given me, that has been the catapult and given me like the platform that I have. But now it turns into like, what am I going to do with it? And it could be something really great and beautiful, or it could be like, it'll fizzle out, and I'll, work on the ranch with my family.
Yeah, I mean, you are, I think, again, like the things I'm taking just from that is like, you didn't want to be just Brooke Ence CrossFit. It was Brooke Ence brand. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are the brand. You are, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do this. And it's like, you're this one person, not just, CrossFit. It's like you've expanded your name and who you are to this brand and a role model of many different avenues, rather than just fitness all the time.
Yeah. But the cornerstone is definitely fitness, health and fitness, but not limited to it. I love trying new things.
How was your recovery after your neck surgery? Like, how did you, go from probably neck surgery down here to then back up to kind of 100-ish%?
Obviously, I mean, I've had a lot of people get fusions or some sort of spine surgery, and they still live with pain. They are constantly, it's like there's constant little problems. I will say that my surgeon is an incredible surgeon and also human. Like, I actually just wrote a review for him, little thing, because he moved his practice. And it's like, his bedside manner even was just as good or better than he is as a surgeon. But I found someone who I was very trusted, worked a lot with athletes at Stanford Hospital in California, Northern California. So there was that. And it was a really great surgery. I still deal with problems. I'm not 100%, but I don't think that was ever in the cards for me to be 100%, but definitely like 90%. My recovery was, I could do nothing I was in a neck brace. I could not bend over, turn my head or anything for 8 weeks.
Wow.
6 to 8 weeks. So when I was able to start getting my heart rate up, because you couldn't do anything for a while for like the blood, you don't want to like blood clots and things like that. I would do a lot of lower body. I would go to the gym here in town and do classes, and we would just modify everything so I could do it. Like I would do a lot of like med ball cleans because I didn't have to bend forward. I would just, stay vertical. A lot of lunging, a lot of walking. I bought ankle weights and I'd wear ankle weights and go on hikes. And just trying to load myself because I couldn't put a weight vest on because it was up here and I couldn't have any tension. But I basically didn't do a lot for 8 weeks. I took my neck brace off, and then I was doing physical therapy. And March 31st was my surgery date. The end of September, I really got to start doing more stuff like early September. And I think it was the end of September or like early October was the first time I did a handstand for the first time. But yeah, it was just PT. I was doing, what's it called? A hyperbaric chamber. Yeah. So with nerve, the rate at which our nerves regenerate is extremely slow, and it's different for different people. And also my doctor wasn't sure how fast it would be, because I was trying to, as soon as I could do more in the gym, I was doing more in the gym. So then you start thinking about like, well, what's it going to regenerate like if I'm applying all this, extra force? And we weren't really sure how that was going to work. There have been studies that hyperbaric chamber does help with nerve regeneration. So my surgeon, he prescribed me, like that was my prescription, was hyperbaric treatment. So I was going over and I was doing hyperbaric almost every day. And right before we ramped it up before regionals, and I was doing it twice a day, like 3 days a week. I would go in the morning and I'd go train, and then I would go at night before I went to bed. So that was really the only added thing besides PT that I was doing for recovery, because with nerves, it's just time. It just takes time. Mm. And it's now 2021, and that was in 2017. And I still have issues with nerves, grip strength, using my hands sometimes, like cramping up. And then I'll get like tension sometimes up in my neck, just because, less mobile up there. But yeah, for the most part, I feel great, and I'm doing way better. And I'm not a CrossFit Games athlete. I'm not going to CrossFit Games, but there's a lot of things I can do. And because I am healthy and not broken, I can keep, trying new things and new sports, or, dabble in new stuff.
Adding more and more strings to the bow, really.
Yeah.
That must have drove you kind of a bit crazy, 8 weeks of doing sweet FA, and I've spoke to a lot of people who struggle to relax, who have got similar sort of mindsets where they're like, I've got to do this, I need to work, I'm building a brand, I want to try this, I want to do that. And it's like, to switch off and try and relax for a period of roughly, 8 weeks must have been a challenge on its own.
Yeah, it was a lot of Gina, my best friend, yelling at me across the room at the gym to like stop doing stuff that I was doing. But I was just in a situation where I just had to accept it, you know.
Well, I mean, that's it, isn't it? Like, you've got a neck brace on. You can't just go, take it off, whatever. Like, because obviously
Yeah.
that's going to cause you some long term effects and ag. Yeah, that I just don't. I couldn't do it. 8 weeks of just like minimal shit. It's not good. I'd have been like
Yeah.
that. I've had enough of this. I'm out. It's very difficult. What would you say has been your sort of best career highlight? Anyways, what would you say has been your best career highlight?
Oh,
No pressure.
right. Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say like this is the best, but definitely my experience at the CrossFit Games, winning the clean and jerk and winning the snatch ladder was a pretty big highlight for me. And yeah, we'll stick with that. We'll just stick with that one answer versus me sitting here and thinking like, what else is amazing that I feel like I've done?
Yeah.
What else is good that I was, happy about?
I know you said you obviously had a time limit. We've been running for 41 minutes now, which has flown by for me. Probably not so much for you. But I've got one more question for you. Obviously, you can answer it as short as you want or go in as depth as you want. But it was just mainly around sort of before you said about like online trolling and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. And I was just wondering how you manage that, because obviously you've got quite a big platform. I'm sure there's people that do write some crap on there that makes no sense. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I was just wondering how you managed it, how it coped, maybe how it previously used to affect you to now. People out there that are listening and may also be getting affected with that.
Yeah. I guess back then, years ago, when, anytime you have people like following you or getting some sort of fame and your Instagram is growing or your YouTube or whatever, you're just going to be, it's like there's trolls out there that's just their job. That's they're getting paid to talk shit. Back then it was really hard for me because, it was really easy for friends to be like, it's just trolls. Like, don't feed into the trolls. Like, don't comment back to the trolls. But what some of those people need to understand is it's very hurtful, even though you may not, that they don't know you, that they are trolls, that they're just saying it to get a rise out of you. To have that negative stuff, you to like see it or read it or recognize it, it can really exhaust. It really can mess you up. It can bother you. For me, like back then too, I had some insecurities, and I'm may not believe this. I'm pretty introverted. So I think I have a lot going on in my head and thinking a lot. And so when I would have like little insecurities or negative thoughts, I would kind of get stuck up here, and they were so stupid and not accurate at all. But it was as if uh, as soon as people started to say things that weren't true, but it almost felt like they were saying something that I thought, or I wondered if if I did look like a man or whatever. Now they were real. So it's like you now have people saying things that maybe I never said out loud. And it in a way became more hurtful, even though it's not from anyone who you care about or anyone that knows you personally or would even know those things about you. So over years of ups and downs, and emotional roller coasters of like not going to the CrossFit Games after I was a CrossFit Games athlete. How could I not be a CrossFit Games athlete anymore? Like in my mind, as soon as I like leveled up in a way, I can't level back down. And so there was a lot of things that I think I was just so busy and had so much to focus on and stuff that took up so much of my time, training, sponsors, that I never had to, I could really forget or ignore some of the insecurities or negative thoughts or questions that I had in my head. I could really just like push them aside and then never deal with them. But then you go through like just some emotional turmoil and you have, I thought about them. I worked through them. And what I was told once from a friend of mine, and I've said this to a lot of people too, is you have, I won't say it exactly how he said it because I'll mess it up, but basically we give power, right? So if someone writes something on your Instagram and they're being a troll, those, like, by focusing on those words, we're giving power to what they said, and so you really do have to just let them just be words, and that could be in a sense of when I'm out and about and I've been with like me and Gina somewhere and, she can see people, like I take my jacket off and then she sees and hears like people whispering and talking about me and how I look and, all the steroids I must take and all this stuff. And, it can be really annoying. And especially like in her case, because she cares about me so much. And there's all this bullshit being said by complete strangers who don't know who I am. And it can really frustrate you. But if you think about it in a sense where reminding yourself that you don't know them, they don't know you, and you just don't give them attention. And whether that's, for me, it's even just like, don't give those words attention in my own head. Because if I start questioning it, it just gets stuck up here and you just feel really crappy. It's a constant battle. This is not like dealing with, people being trolls or reading comments or having things said to you. Like for me, it's like, I just get better at from practicing some of these, like, things that I do, whether it's like a thought pattern I have or little ways to remind myself that what they're saying really doesn't matter. I just get better at like protecting my own emotional state in a way, even though sometimes it's like, it's still hard to hear, now, I'm always just looking for someone who can be more creative with their insults. Like I've heard everything. So by this point, I'm actually entertained if you can be more creative instead of just saying the easy stuff. Like stop insulting me with the easy stuff that people have been saying for years that they say to every strong female. Get a little more creative and to laugh about it, honestly. And then what I'll do too is I'll just erase comments. Like some comments that are kind of negative, sometimes I'll erase them, sometimes I won't. But you just get rid of it, and then reminding yourself, let's say this person that is trolling you. One, I like to look at their life, usually like make up what I assume their life is like, because you don't really know because they have like no profile picture, or maybe they do. A lot of people are like being so hateful and hurtful, and you go to their Instagram and it's like, family first, my kids, Jesus Christ, like all these things. We were like, what? Like, and this is how you're teaching your children to just rag on strangers because based on how they look. Anyways, it's do they have the life that I want? Do they have the job I want? Do they have, the happiness that I want, the success that I want? If they don't have any of those things, and primarily being like their happiness, their attitude, they don't have that, I don't care what they say anyways, because I would never ask them for advice, because I don't want to know what they think, because I'm not trying to end up where they are. I'm trying to end up somewhere very different. So having good people in your life that you can really have that almost ground you and how you respond, I guess, respond to some of these things or feel about yourself when you do read negative comments is people that lift you up, and they kind of they help you level up because, you're chasing the same stuff, they're, and we're all moving in different directions. And some people, they just, misery loves company,
Yeah, I get you. I would indulge in a little rant with you about all of that kind of chaos on the internet,
So
but
much chaos.
we'd be here for a little while because I've got a few things about that and a few tips for people, and I'm not going to entertain it because you'll be looking at me going, come on, hurry up. Shut up now, you're done. But no, that's pretty much the final question I had for you anyway, so I really appreciate your time. Is there anything you would like to add, by the way, that's off on a total tangent, programs you might be selling, where people can find you?
Sure, I'll plug Nakedtraining.app. We are about to launch the newest version of our app. It's incredible. We have the Naked program is primarily it's building strength focused, and you can sign up following the conventional program or the functional program. So that's just depending on where you train. We have the at-home program. We have at-home dumbbell program. We are launching a new program that is a live program. So all of these other ones, you can, if you have a very specific goal in mind, or limited equipment or something like that, or you can't go to a gym, we have programs for that. The live program is going to be programmed by my really good friend Daniel Jahangard, and it's going to be, it's like going to a CrossFit gym. So now everyone who's following the Naked Training program or using the app, we can all be doing the same programming the same day, versus when you do get into our program, it's a you have testing weeks. You start out, it's really to get stronger, to get fitter. But this one will be a live program. So ever more people can be doing the same thing. And really, hopefully the goal is to just continue to build our strong community and have more engagement from, people all over the world, really. I'm very excited about it. So Nakedtraining.app, Enswear.com. Enswear is getting ready to launch more men's clothing. We've launched some new items for ladies, leggings, bras, and keep an eye out. Try it out. Everything will get better as we grow too. So Athea Skincare, check it out. Between the Reps podcast. That one,
I just love that.
Not for everybody. That one's not for everybody. Women really love it. A lot of men listen to it as well. We are very open. Talk about everything. A lot of women's stuff. Periods, breast implants, skincare, extensions, vibrators, shitting your pants. Because that stuff really happens. Anyways, what am I missing? Oh man, am I missing?
That's probably something. I don't know. We can plug it in. At some point. I can put a link down.
Just follow me on Instagram, and check out my YouTube channel.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. I've probably seen it somewhere popping up and whatever. So yeah, I'll try and plug all those links in the video description anyways, for those that do want to find it. So it's not a problem. I really appreciate your time though for coming on and talking to me. Still mad that I'm talking to you. It's mad. I'm just little old me, like living in some shithole basically, talking to you. So it's weird times. But yeah, if you're happy, I'll just talk to you for a couple of minutes off stream. I'll stop recording now. I'll let you know when we stop recording, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.